What is going on, everybody? Yeah, I'm just gonna talk about of course, my reaction to, of course, what transpired on Saturday between the Fever and the Chicago Sky. The Djonai Carrington ejection after a flagrant 2 foul on Sophie Cunningham. So, of course, if you guys did not know, it's a fast break play. Hold on, guys. I'll be right back. God damn! Alright, guys, sorry about that. As I was saying, so yeah, of course, people were reacting to Djonai Carrington's hard foul on Sophie Cunningham. They were kind of getting to a point of where, like, was it a prime example of, like, and they took her words completely out of context. They took her words completely out of context where she was meaning about white privilege, and she wasn't just referring to a play like this or what she did. So because as I looked at the replay, as I looked at it, yeah, that was clearly a hard foul or hard contact. And yeah, I don't believe personally that it was warranted of, like, all the extra commotion, because people try to pretend like Sophie Cunningham didn't necessarily have this kind of play and everything coming. So I gotta say is that in this context, Sophie definitely had a lot of pent up emotion and rage and everything before, even last year where she did a hard foul. I'm gonna show you guys real quick about that before on JC Sheldon, where she, like, grabbed her by the shoulders, the right and left shoulder, and she basically threw her to the ground. I'll show you all of that last year to kind of, like, make a hard end point on it. But yeah, of course, people are looking at Djonai Carrington like, oh yeah, and let me just show you guys some things too. Now, I'll just show you some clips too, just real quick. So yeah, I mean, there is a couple of examples that people are trying to go at and make it seem like, of course, Djonai is more of a dirty player. And that's the question that people was asking on a lot of these sports podcasts and sports takes. I wanted to show you guys some images of that. So yeah, of course, they was playing the LA Sparks, and she pulled one of the girls by her hair as she was not going for the basketball play, as one of the girls' hands got shoved in her face. And then this is kind of an example of, like, oh, is she a dirty player? Is she a hard? But to me, it's not really in that context. I think she's more just a hard-nosed defender, and she just gets in the way. Another example here, of course, and I believe this was Natasha Cloud, as she was trying to go when she was playing with the Connecticut Sun. She was trying to go for the ball, and of course, she ended up getting there in the hole, in the stomach and the neck area. So again, aggressive moves going for basketball plays is, as far as I'm concerned, for me, to me, in my opinion. But another thing that is a, here's some more. So of course, these are just things that I'm just looking at y'all for, these images that I'm showing you guys. It's a way of just kind of just going through my thoughts. It's like, I don't think that she's a dirty player. I just think that she's a hard-nosed defender. I just think that she tries to go for the ball and make a basketball play. This happens a lot in the WNBA, where a lot of players are going for the basketball, going for the ball, and sometimes, you know, when you hold the ball at a certain angle, and you don't intentionally try to go, you know, to try to hit a player in the neck area below. You just trying to go for the ball play, and sometimes you end up getting a ball fake and just accidentally have incidental contact. So I think people who don't watch the WNBA, who don't watch it at all, are just trying to make things appear as if it may have been seen, and make things completely out of context, and blowing things out of proportion, to a point where it makes it to a thing that is unwatchable, you know, to certain people. And then of course to certain individuals, because they make it a scene about a Caitlin Clark, you know, because Caitlin Clark is getting so many foul calls. And I'll get to that in a minute, where a lot of people want to try to play the race card. I'll get to a lot of things in a minute, because a lot of folks seem to believe that Caitlin Clark and Sophie Cunningham, they just like a prime example of like a microcosm of the league giving them special privileges and advantages, in a sense that maybe it's because of their fan base, not because of them individually. And I feel like people get that kind of misconstrued. Their fan base is so toxic, and the reason why also last year even Stephanie White had to take a year off, not necessarily the whole season. I'm talking about like in the off season, she had to take, of course, to pretty much a year off, of some time away from herself, is because, she sometimes can't deal with a lot of the toxicity, of a certain player, of a certain individual, and a certain team's fan base. It kind of makes it more, just avant-garde and apropos, and it makes it to a standpoint of just having it such a vernacular, a way of just making things more difficult and more challenging. Yes, there are some opportunities. That and certain advantages that they get. Like I said, when it comes to foul calling, when it comes to certain lengths and the aggressive play, and because of the aggressive play, oh hey, what's going on, Amandus? What's going on? And May Radius, hey, what's going on? But yeah, it's certain levels of play that makes it just I don't know why nobody in the chat room. I don't really care about that. But as I was saying, I the thing is that makes players like this in a certain advantage and a certain length is because they take advantage of a lot of poor judges and a poor officiating out there on the court. And because certain times the officials don't want to call certain calls to be so much in their favor and to be beneficiary, and to point, because a lot of these women players, even now, who don't make basketball plays or basketball moves, or who be pushing and shoving, they try to go for a lot of the ball fake. A lot of times they try to go for a certain advantage that he's called for them. And also get to this screen, get to me. Now here's what I was talking about before. You know, people are very much so hypocrites. Now I want to see Jason Whitlock and I want to see Emmanuel Acho, and a lot of these sports podcasts talk about plays like this. They want to sit here and kind of criticize Djonai Carrington, and her aggressive play. And I just showed you, yeah, there are times where Djonai is a hard-nosed defender, and sometimes that gets taken so much out of context. But I want y'all to really watch these kind of things right here, because why there's so much hypocrites. Again, Kayla Clark made a hard play and a hard contact, swinged at the head of Jordan Canada. Now, is that an example of a dirty basketball, a dirty play that's not going for the basketball? Like, is that a prime example of somebody that, again, makes them kind of hard-nosed plays? A certain player that barks and yells at the officials because calls don't go her way? I mean, this girl over the last several games has went to the free throw line like 15 to 16 times a night. But you guys call her like as one of the top premier players in the game. You just saw, and I just showed y'all the other day, Kayla McBride only had one free throw attempt. She was efficient from the field, 16 to 21, and literally made 10 threes of 14. She didn't need no screens. She didn't need no kind of foul calls. She just straight hooped. Olivia Miles did not need no kind of treatment for her to get 20 points and 13 assists. And all of her assists led to transition buckets or transition threes. You don't need no 1,000 screens and a bunch of ball fakes like what Caitlin Clark does, and a hard fouls and hard contact like she has, in order for you to get your message and your point across. That's the problem that I have. And again, you don't make these kind of calls in that she, and by the way, and this is a game that happened, I think, earlier in the year. She didn't even get ejected. Earlier, I think my fault. This is happening last year. But again, my point is, she didn't even get ejected from this game in Atlanta. She didn't get ejected not one time. She got a flagrant penalty one call, but she didn't get ejected. She wasn't going for the basketball play. And the windup was there, everything. But she didn't get that kind of call. But that's my thing is, you can't be hypocritical and make certain advantages go in their favor and then try to make it seem as if people like us, people in my behalf are ones that are calling the BS like we see it. And also, if it wasn't for the fact that it's Indiana, and it wasn't for the fact that it was Sophie Cunningham on a transition fast break play, it wasn't for the fact that Djonai Carrington did what she did, and the fact that Kayla Clark is the top two most popular figures of the W, a lot of these podcasts, a lot of these, sports channels would not care about her. And they would not care to really be talking about it. If it wasn't the name recognition and popularity and the fact that she got to a couple of national title games, or at least the Final Four before she got to the national title game. If it wasn't for all that, breaking the three-point record at Iowa, they wouldn't be kind of talking about her. And that's the thing that really is frustrating. We can't focus on basketball. We got to focus on, just nonsense. Now, here's the thing about Sophie Cunningham. Played just last year, right? Hold on. Yeah, played just last year. Again, look at this. Look at this play. Okay, of course they got ejected. Both J.C. Sheldon and her got ejected from the game. But again, my point in making this is that you gotta highlight things in its proper context. Sophie Cunningham has always been that much of a dirty player. even coming from Phoenix and being over there with the Phoenix Sun, the Phoenix Mercury for 6 years. You know, she wasn't getting looked at. She wasn't getting the focus on her. They wasn't paying attention to her nonetheless. But when it comes to bringing about her speaking about transgender issues, and the fact is she brung that side of a community back over which was already kind of like a set aside as far as the right wing conservatives, the right wing outlets, you know, being in Clans, Indiana, being over in Indiana, you set a mark and set a blaze and made things more than what it actually could seem. And again, I'm highlighting this as a thing of just showing you guys, or at least showing these images and showing you guys that sometimes turnabouts can be fair play and cannot be fair play. And it looks to me like, again, before in games, you know, Sophie is, again, an energizer. She's a hard-nosed player. She gets in people's faces. She likes to point fingers, and also she is, again, tries to be this so-called hardcore physical player, but she really isn't. She can take it, she can dish it out, but she can't take it. It's from what I've seen. And in my opinion, it kind of makes it more invaluable for a lot of you people that really are not watching the game to kind of just show you how self-centered and egotistical that you guys are, you know, that are making these channels. I forget this one chick that used to be a coach in a W and now is a YouTuber and started her own podcast channel. I cannot remember her name, but she does a lot of Indiana coverage too. And again, she is another microcosm of a problem that I have. Then, of course, you got a lot of, you know, Fever fans that want to turn to Angel Reese fans and supporters that y'all not really Fever fans and y'all not really Angel Reese fans or supporters. Y'all just want to try to make things like, and again, this is another problem that I have when it comes to the league and it comes to the W. It gets way too friendly, and we got to get back to the competition aspect. And I wish we can get back to the competition aspect and leave the whole friendliness out of it until it's after the court, off the court, and then leave the whole racial and social construct stuff alone and leave the political aspect alone. And it starts by you guys not making everything and making every call that goes against certain players that you like into the race context. And I wish that you guys would not do that so much, because not everything should be made about race. We really should be focusing on the sport and the competitiveness of it. And again, that's just my opinion and how I see it. And again, you would think that because I'm in Indianapolis, I'm supposed to be representing the Fever and everything, representing my team. That's not even the point of making this video. I'm just saying to you guys that we just got to get back to actually discussing and really making basketball the fun thing that I love to do, and leaving a lot of the racial context out of it, you know, because quite frankly, it just makes it intolerable. And again, and as I make it to consider into a lot of considerations, I look at things like when people so much. The thing is, sometimes Caitlin Clark, and again, I don't blame this on her, and I don't blame this on Sophie. I blame this more so on the hype that the media gave her, the hype that ESPN and Fox and TSN and all these different outlets gave her when she first came into the W, but was not really watching on the fundamentals aspect. They don't really watch the fundamental aspects of her game and notice that she needs to work on things and needs to improve. And I wish that a lot of times they'll focus and watch on that kind of stuff, but they won't call it out. I mean, literally, when she goes against the good teams, you just saw what she did against the Aces. I mean, she completely got exposed. Not only by the GOAT and the GOAT and Asia Wilson. I'm talking about like Chelsea Gray a couple of times, and even Jackie Young guarding her 94 feet. Times where the Atlanta Dream, as I'm sure you hear, with Jordan Canada. A lot of the times, Caitlin Clark be getting exposed, and a lot of people are not calling it out how it is. The Minnesota Lynx, the same way. Even before they got Olivia Miles, with Courtney Williams. A lot of times they like to do a lot of double teams, like to do a lot of traps, like to force the ball out of her hands, and they're trying not to let her. And same thing with the Aces, not trying to let her get downhill. And same way with Kelsey Mitchell. But the thing is, Kelsey Mitchell does something that Caitlin Clark should have been doing before when she got into it. Move without the basketball. Not having the ball primarily always in her hands, and moving off of picks. And also, the thing is, yeah, we can look at Caitlin Clark's assists, but also, having 8 assists in that game, and even previously, I think it was like 10. She had a triple-double. I mean, yeah, that looks whatever good on the stat sheet, but also, you got to look at how you get those assists. You got to look at also the turnovers, the turnover-assist ratio. Like, you got to look at that kind of stuff before you put it in the context, before you start to just look at that and be like, okay, yeah, there are aspects that are exciting from a blanketed naked eye to watch, but then it's like, okay, but there are several other things and glaring holes that she needs to work and improve on. So that's the thing I was saying that I really had to look at, before we start to overall judge, and it kind of makes it unfair to really look at it. But again, that's the hype that the media likes to bring on her. Now, getting back to what I was saying about the whole Djonai and Sophie Cunningham thing, I think that it definitely warranted a flagrant. And at least in my opinion, it warranted a flagrant foul penalty 1. I don't think it was worth as far as an ejection. In my opinion, I watched this play several times, and I'm still sticking by what I said. And that's just how I see it, in my opinion. I mean, somebody else may look at it differently, but that's just how I see it. Tell me what you guys think down in the comment section down below. To get on out of here, I got some things to do, so I appreciate y'all. Whoever was watching, tuning in, liking, sharing, and most of all, subscribing to the page. I'm out. Peace.